All right, this is the review for the quiz on simplifying rationals, multiplying rationals, and dividing rationals. Okay? Numbers 1 through 4 say simplify each expression and state the restrictions. So number 1, when you factor the numerator, you're looking for two numbers that multiply to 4 and add to 5. So that'll be 4 and 1. So you factor that to become x plus 4 times x plus 1. To factor the denominator, you're going to factor out the greatest common factor, which is 10x. So you factor out a 10x, and it leaves you with x plus 1 in parentheses. Because 10x times x is 10x squared, and 10x times 1 is 10x. Now you're going to divide out the greatest common, you're going to divide out the common factor of x plus 1. And it leaves you with x plus 4 over 10x. Now you have to state the restrictions. X cannot equal 0, and x cannot equal negative 1. When you do x plus 1 cannot be 0, you get negative 1. So x cannot be negative 1 or 0. I like to put them from smallest to biggest, but you don't have to. That's the answer. Okay. Number 2, factor the numerator, find two numbers that multiply to negative 24 and add to 2. So it'll be 6 and negative 4. For the denominator, find two numbers that multiply to negative 32 and add to 4. So it'll be 8 and negative 4. Divide out the common factor of b minus 4. And the final answer is b plus 6 over b plus 8. Restrictions, b plus 8 cannot be 0, so b cannot be negative 8, and b cannot be positive 4. Okay. Now we're going to get to something a little more difficult. Okay, those were easy to factor because they were either GCF or it was 1x squared, or in this case 1b squared. Okay, that's not the case in the next one. However, actually it might be. Yeah, there's an easy way to do this one. There's a hard way to do this one. So I'm glad we have this one. There's a GCF for the numerator, and there's a GCF for the denominator. So factor that first. Okay, factor out the GCF of 3 in the numerator. It leaves you with n squared minus 7n plus 12. Factor out the GCF of the denominator, which again is 3 by coincidence. Leaves you with n squared minus 2n minus 8. What's the only thing better than factoring once? Factoring twice. So now you're going to factor again for the numerator. Find two numbers that multiply to 12 and add to negative 7. So it'll be negative 4 and negative 3. For the denominator, find two numbers that multiply to negative 8 and add to negative 2. It'll be negative 4 and positive 2. Divide out the common factors. So there's a common factor of 3 that gets divided out with that 3. Great. And the n minus 4s get divided out, which gives you the final answer of n minus 3 over n plus 2. Then you have to do the restrictions. You're going to get negative 2 for a restriction, and you're going to get 4 for a restriction. Don't forget the factors you divided out. Negative 2 and 4 are the restrictions. Okay. This next one's going to be more difficult because there's no GCF, and it's not 1m squared. If it was 1m squared, it'd be easy to factor, but this one is not, so this is a hard one to factor. Both the numerator and denominator are going to be hard to factor. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to do this one on a separate piece of paper so there's more room. Okay. 7m squared minus 25m plus 12. Let's factor the numerator first. I'm just doing this so I have more room. I'm doing it off to the side. First, you're going to do 7 times 12, right? That's 84. Now, you need two numbers that multiply to 84 and add to negative 25. So actually, I don't know that off the top of my head. I haven't done this yet. It's going to be 28 and negative 3. So I rewrite the middle term. I mean negative 28 and positive 3. So I rewrite the middle term as negative 28m plus 3m. And I do factoring by grouping. The first group has a GCF of 7m. Leaves you with m minus 4 in parentheses. The second group has a GCF of 3. Leaves you with, did I make a mistake right there? Yeah, I made a mistake right there, my bad. I didn't realize it until afterwards. So it's 7, let's restart. I used the wrong pair. I'm not going to remake the video, so I'm just going to restart it right now, okay? Let's restart. I made a mistake. You're looking for numbers that multiply to 84 and add to negative 25. So let's go through that pair again. Now I see. It's negative 4 and negative 21, my bad. That's the pair you want, okay? The numbers you want have to multiply to 84 and add to negative 25. So I did the wrong pair. But I caught it right away. If you do mess up like I just did, you can probably catch it during the problem, hopefully. So multiply to 84. I got that by doing 7 times 12. And we have to add to negative 25. So the pair you want is negative 21 and negative 4. Now the first group has a GCF of 7m, which leaves you with m minus 3 in parentheses. In the second group, I'm also going to take out a negative 4, so that way the parentheses match. Okay. Again, the parentheses should match in this step. If not, that means you probably made a mistake. So that's why I recognize I made a mistake on the first time I tried this, because the parentheses did not match. That's what I get for trying to go too fast. Okay, now the parentheses match, so you factor that out to the beginning. M minus 3 times 7m minus 4. Okay. So that's how you multiply the numerator. We said m minus 3 times 7m minus 4. Okay, now let's factor the denominator. 3m squared minus 5m minus 12. You need two numbers that multiply to negative 36. You get that by doing 3 times negative 12. And they have to add to the negative 5 in the middle. So the pair that you want is going to be negative 9 and 4. So rewrite the middle term as negative 9m plus 4m. Factoring by grouping time, the first group has a GCF of 3m, which leaves you with m minus 3 in parentheses. And the second group has a GCF of 4, which leaves you with m minus 3 in parentheses. Factor out the parentheses, and then everything else comes in the second set of parentheses. Okay, so m minus 3 times 3m plus m. Okay. Times 3m plus 4, I should say. Did I say that? Divide out the common factors. And the final answer is 7m minus 4 over 3m plus 4. The restrictions, m cannot equal negative 4/3. You just do 3m plus 4 cannot be 0, and you get negative 4/3. And then you get positive 3 for the other restriction. Okay. That was the hardest one so far. Now we have 2 more in the review. We have 1 multiplication problem, and we have 1 division problem. So first thing we're going to do for number 5 is we're going to factor. The top left has a GCF of 10. That leaves you with 3b plus 4. The bottom left has a GCF also of 10. That leaves you with b plus 8. The top right, there's nothing to do. And the bottom right has a GCF of 6. So you factor that out, it leaves you with 3b plus 4. Divide out the common factors, okay? 10 with 10. 3b plus 4 with 3b plus 4. And you get the following. You get 10 over 6 times b plus 8. We'll take care of that in a minute. 10 over 6 times b plus 8. And then you're going to divide the 10 by 2 and the 6 by 2 because they have a common factor of 2. It leaves you with the final answer, 5 over 3 times b plus 8. Restriction time. B cannot be negative 8. Subtract 4, divide by 3. B cannot be negative 4/3. I like to put the smaller number first. Let me just fix that. Okay, so then this is just personal preference. I like to put the smaller numbers first. So I'll put negative 8. Then I'll put negative 4/3, but you don't have to do that. Okay. And 1 more. This one's going to be division. Whenever you have to do division, you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to write x squared plus 8x plus 7 divided by 7x plus 56 times the reciprocal. 4x squared plus 32x over 4x squared plus 4x. Okay. So on the top left, you are going to find 2 numbers that multiply to 7 and add to 8. So it'll be x plus 7 times x plus 1. Bottom left has a GCF of 7, so 7 times x plus 8. Top right is going to have a GCF of 4x. So factor out the 4x, and it leaves you with x plus 8 in parentheses. And the bottom right has a GCF of 4x. So you factor that out, and it leaves you with x plus 1 in parentheses. I don't know why I'm talking like this. Anyway, divide out the common factors now. X plus 8, x plus 8. X plus 1, x plus 1. 4x, 4x. Final answer is x plus 7 over 7. Then you have to do the restrictions. So you have to do restrictions for each term in the denominator and from the original denominator. Don't forget about the original denominator, okay? So x plus 8 cannot be 0. X cannot be negative 8. That's one restriction. Another restriction is x cannot be 0. X plus 1 cannot be 0. So another restriction is x cannot be negative 1. And don't forget about the original denominator, which is this one right here. This was the original denominator. X cannot be 0. We already have that one from earlier. And we already have x cannot be negative 8. So that's fine. So the restrictions will be x cannot be negative 8, negative 1, and 0. Okay. And that's the end of the quiz review on simplifying, multiplying, and dividing rational expressions.